So today's guest is a powerhouse in the music industry, my man, Solomon Sobande, respected executive, entrepreneur, founder of Sounds Music Group. And you got little bro with you as well.
Yes, I do. I got my little man, Jose, with me. It's a pleasure to be here today, man. Thank you so much for having me, Dan.
I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for pulling up.
Absolutely, man. Wouldn't miss it.
So you're known for your work managing the late XXXTentacion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guiding the artist's rise to global stardom.
Yeah.
And later becoming the steward of his legacy as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, my time with X, I think, was some of the most remarkable time I think a young entrepreneur can have with an artist, right? Because even though things went so fast and unfortunately we only had a short amount of time together, it was like every single day was special, right? Like, it was so special that even right now, I named my son after him, right? So it gets no more personal than that, right? Being able to come in, meet an artist, and build not just an amazing bond between the two of you, but ultimately an amazing bond that the world gets to see and appreciate even years after, you know, he's no longer here with us, right? And I think that's the real special thing, right? It's been like 7-8 years since he hasn't been with us anymore, and his impact is larger than while he was here, right? Like, every single year, you know, I watch the Spotify wrap-ups, and I'm still so amazed that, you know, like a Kurt Cobain, his legacy only continues to grow, right?
Yeah.
There's now new kids that are part of this cult fan base that weren't even into it while he was here, right? But the authenticity of it, right? The fearlessness of his spirit and his music and all of that, it just lives on, right? In a really fascinating way. So each new generation is kind of introduced to this, and they're able to absorb it and kind of like feel his principles and understand what, you know, he was fighting for as an artist and for mental health and, you know, all of those things. And also, you know, they can enjoy the music and have a good time to it as well.
Yeah, I love that, bro. I really want to get into that some of that stuff, and also by way of introduction, your story doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
You've been pivotal in roles at labels like RCA, Columbia Records, and you continue to, in my opinion, shape culture with your work, man.
Appreciate it.
With a new generation of talent, including Stay Solid Rocky, Nigerian superstar Tenny, and much more, which we're going to get into. So I think, you know, you've shown you've built artists from the ground up to preserve their impact. And, you know, I just want to let you know you're a rare kind of visionary, man.
Thank you.
And I'm honored to have you on the show. So it's great to have you, bro. I'm trying to think of when we first met. It was...
So was it the Samper day?
Yeah. With that boy Nico.
Yeah, with Nico. So that was a really interesting time, right? Because it was my first real go as a senior executive inside a major label, right? But it was great, right? Starting out, right? Jeff Vaughn, shout out to Jeff Vaughn, who was a great friend, you know, brought me in, and, you know, he had really lofty visions of, you know, what an iconic label like Capitol, what it should look like in the future. And, you know, I had a lot of love for Jeff Vaughn from my early days. You know, Jeff Vaughn always kind of like would always lend me his ear and give me advice, and if not nothing, just cheer me on, right? So it's like when it was early pandemic, I actually found out I was having my first kid, and, you know, I just wanted to try something new. And, you know, a lot of music was exploding in the pandemic, right? It was like really the time of TikTok, right? And for me, I was bored. I didn't have any real responsibilities yet. So I was just working. I was signing as much stuff as I can. You know, I think during the pandemic, we signed an amazing amount of artists. You know, we signed BFB the Pac-Man, we signed Cochise, we signed Stay Solid Rocky, we signed PP Cocaine, we signed this kid Ja SLT who passed away. We signed really a lot of things. You know, gave a lot of artists they start, did a lot of great deals, publishing deals, whatever the case may be, and built a lot of careers that are still, like, you know, doing really well today, right? So during that time, you know, Jeff was kind of watching how me and, you know, my partner Veli at Sounds Music Group was moving.
Shout out Veli.
Shout out to Veli, my guy, you know, my
Philly
brother.
boy.
Philly boy, for sure. So, you know, Jeff kind of saw how we were moving. We were real closers, right? You know, we came to every single deal with the level of authenticity and a passion that I think artists could recognize, right? And then also showing them the other side of success, right? You know, whether it's coming with crazy watches or pulling up with crazy cars, just showing them, you know, like, yo, if you really, you know, are smart in this business, you do what you have to do. This is what the other side could look like for your family, right? So artists really understood where we were coming from. We were able to sign a lot. So I jumped on and, you know, I started working with Jeff. Jeff brought me over as SVP. And, you know, we were off to the races pretty quick. I think my first week on the job, I signed K Flock, Capella Gray, and really just built out those artists. Unfortunately, Jeff got let go. And when Jeff got let go, it kind of became like, not kind of like an uneasy place for me there, right? I was trying to basically figure out like who my allies were and who was really going to understand to really help me get things to the next level. And then we found Ice Spice. And at the time, you know, Nico can probably tell you this, he wasn't really into Ice Spice. It was super early on in her career. It was before anything viral happened. But I understood the culture really well, right? And I understood that she was beautiful and she had a sound that can kind of help progress just the whole drill movement farther than a lot of people were doing it. Really anybody except for Pop Smoke, right? Pop Smoke, in my mind, was the last artist that really had the wherewithal to take drill to the masses, right? And I feel like when you do that, it has to conform a little bit. It has to change a little bit. But like, he was the last artist that kind of had that ability in my mind. So when I saw Ice Spice and, you know, the Annie, the everything, I was like, yo, this is a cartoon character, right? This is I get this instantly. So I sat with
Everyone's
her.
gonna love this.
Exactly. I sat with her really early, you know, and I was really supportive of it. So when it came back and it turned viral, I already had a relationship with her. So it was easy, right, with the help of Elliot's $2 million to, you know, close that deal. But, you know, that was really what it was about for me, right? Finding those artists, identifying them really early, right? Building those relationships and then just, you know, giving them game. And when they got to that point where they were ready to just go off to the next level, like, I loved being there and I loved the chase. I loved that, right? Like, because, you know, all the other A&Rs were all friends, right? Like me, Lou, Saint, Orlando, we all hang out. We all go to each other's houses. We all know each other's kids. We show up for each other in such meaningful and beautiful ways when it comes to family. But in the same space, we're super competitive when the clock's ticking, right? When the ball's on the court, it's a whole different game. So
that's dope. What was it like for you as a kid getting into this side of things?
For me, I always wanted to be inside music. I just didn't necessarily know how, right? So I think my start really came for me when I was in college, right? Because I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do, right? Luckily, I had a scholarship that I did academically well, but I was always trying to figure my way into music, but I didn't know nobody. I really didn't have any money, you know. So I remember at the time I ended up like reading up about Jimmy Iovine, and Jimmy Iovine, you know, lied and said he went to some prestigious university to start interning. And I dropped out of school really shortly after that. And I was like, okay, that's what I'll do. Right, I'll tell everybody.
I heard about this.
I went to Harvard.
A girl from who was an Ivy Leaguer?
Yeah, no, she worked at Harvard, right? She was actually a friend of like she was a friend of a friend that I met at the University of Hartford while I was in school, and she had a job on campus at Harvard.
No way.
So I just convinced her to give me this letterhead saying I was a student. And then I used that letterhead to intern everywhere. Like anybody that would have me, I was like, yo, come help me. Like, let me get in the building. Let me learn something. And I really thought it was an amazing thing for me, right? Because ultimately, like, people could take a good look at me and realize I wasn't at Harvard, but they all respected the hustle. Right? They all respected the hustle. And, you know, me and some of these guys laugh about that to this day. A lot of us are still friends, whether it be, you know, the Chris Hershey's at, you know, who was at E1 Koch, or the Julius Garcias at RCA, or Quincy Jackson's that was at, you know, Columbia. I was lucky, you know, I always found myself, you know, with some really good role models and, you know, people that were more than happy to share advice with me. And I think that's the way I am now, right? I'm always happy to give advice and share any type of opportunity or game to the guys that's coming up next. Because I remember when we were coming up, that thing was it was like, it was hard to come by.
Yeah.
Right? It was
Like
definitely hard to
YouTube
come by that
digs.
real support. Facts.
Did they ever find out, or did you just outwork everyone in the building?
Like, I applied to so many places. The only one place I got found out at was a place called the Decca Label. The Decca Label is like Universal Music Group's classical music department. But
And so
at the
you
time,
you went far and wide.
yes, I was so hungry to be in the business. I was like, classical music department, fuck it. It's Universal, right? Okay, fuck it. I'll make my way in the building. I'll figure it out. So they found me out, right? But nobody else found out. Nobody else even really cared to look. Because also when it came time to do the work, I was just doing the work and I was happy to do the work, right? And I would finish all my work and go find everybody. I was like, yo, how can I help? Or whatever the case may be. I remember, when I was at Columbia at the time, Columbia did distribution for Rock Nation. It was that early, right? And the only artist on Rock Nation was J. Cole, right? And I was like helping build out the Dollar and the Dream stuff and all these things super, super early because I was such a J. Cole fan. So I was like, oh, this is a dream come true. I'm an intern, but this is the shit that I'm listening to on the train on the way into work. So it just made so much sense for me. And I knew somehow, some way, this was where I was supposed to be,
I love that, bro. Looking back, was there a moment in your career where you felt close to giving up, and what kept you moving forward?
There's no handbook on how to make it, right? You got to reinvent yourself a bunch of times. You got to really figure out what's going to stand out and special as a person and what your competitive advantage to everybody else is going to be. So there was plenty of times where, I would run out of money and just be like, yo, I don't necessarily know how to get to the next level. I would go hustle and get some money and figure something else out. But
what kept you going?
just the drive of passion to know there's not nothing else I wanted to do, right? Like, and I think that should be the number one driver. It's that, and I hate it here, right? Your passion for what you want to do and the fact that you hate your current situation, I think should be all the motivation you need to get up off your fucking ass and to make something shake, right?
You mentioned your mom. Tell me about her.
So my mom was just always super supportive of me, right? So she wanted me to go to school and be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm Nigerian, right? So that's all like they know culturally, right? So anything else is like, oh, you embarrassed the family. So for me, I never wanted to do that. I really just wanted to figure out my way in music. But when I did the exact opposite, she was always extremely supportive, right? I remember before I even knew of an ex or anything like that, I built a studio in her house and I never even asked her permission. She just pulled up in her driveway one day and we're throwing sheetrock out the window, literally building a proper studio.
Subwoofer's going in, it's going to rumble her bedroom.
Crazy, right? And we kept her up plenty of nights. That's why to this day she lives in my guest house, right? Like, I do everything for her because the level of support as a single mom, amazing, right? And
that's cool.
I'm trying to be like that for my kid. That's why I got him with me now, right? I'm just trying to just push it forward.
You worked as an A&R intern at RCA.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that time, and the question I have around it is, do you feel you have to pay your dues to get a break in the industry initially or not?
So I feel like I had to pay my dues, right? I didn't come from a rich family. Unfortunately, Monty Lippman wasn't my neighbor, right? Like, I didn't really know where to go, where to figure things out, right?
Yeah.
But there's this book, right, called The Alchemist, right? And that book was almost like one of the, outside of my kids and ex, that book was like the best thing that ever happened to me, right? Because that book taught me how to appreciate the journey, right? And a lot of people kind of miss that, right? The specialness in the journey, right? Like, we're all trying to do something special. We're all trying to become something. We all have these great dreams, but we're becoming who we want to become in the journey, right? And a lot of people lose sight of that because it's so hard, right? And you're so focused on the end result. So for me, part of the way I never gave up and kind of just shot through everything was I always had, I always understood where the end goal was, but I knew that the in and outs of this journey every single day was going to make me who I was going to be, right? And I just wasn't afraid of that. Like, I was ready for it.
What moment or collaboration changed your career trajectory?
So I was really smart and I had all this information from interning at all these places and reading all these books and watching every interview ever uploaded to YouTube ever, right? But I still needed a shot to show my genius, right? I still needed an artist that was really, really, really special, that could command an audience, that knew what they wanted to do, that was polarizing, to really be able to be anything, right? It's like, as amazing as a coach that Phil Jackson was, what would he would have been without Jordan and Kobe, right? So it was that for me all the way, right? Like as great as I was, or as great as I knew I could be, I needed somebody that was on that level, even greater, to really help me get my ideas out, that opportunity to show the world, I could be a great manager, I could be a great record executive, I could be somebody that understands how to keep my thumb on the pulse of the culture if I just have the opportunity, and that opportunity came in leaps and bounds, when I met Jase, but not just when I met him, when I convinced him to believe in me, right? Because it was at a point where anybody would have wanted to sign him, right? Anybody would have wanted to work with him, right? But I understood the importance of not just his music career, but the rest of his life, and trying to get him out of jail.
Because you met him when he was inside.
I met him when he was locked up. So, I think what made my proposition a little bit more intriguing to everybody else is I was really focused on, and additionally, getting him out of jail, right? In addition to just the record deal is cool, the distribution deals are cool, but you getting up out of jail, getting home with your family, getting to see your brother or your mom, that was really important to me as well. So it was all hands on deck doing both those things at the same time. With the lawyer that I had that was working with him, we were spending half the time on the phone with Ghazi or Peter Edge or Craig Kalman, and half the time on the phone with Robert Trackman, his criminal lawyer, right? And that was just the everyday life until we kind of got things over the top.
And then when did you first meet in person?
So the first time we met in person, at this point, we were on the phone together for about like a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, let's just meet out. Let me know your next visitation day. And I flew out to meet him, and I had this management contract that we typed up together over the phone, and literally that was it. That's literally all I had. I had a round trip ticket, like $100 in cash, and $100 bill. And the management agreement that was folded up, right? I didn't even have a pen. And, we sat down. I met up with Orlando. Me and Orlando went to go talk to him together. And, I saw his eyes. And I kind of tell the story before, but I saw his eyes. And, before talking to him on the phone every day, this is a crazy kid, going through a bunch of shit, whatever the case may be. He's from Florida, obviously. But it was when I saw his eyes, he had these beautiful eyes, I kind of fell in love with him. I got you, bro. There was a level of innocence, right? And a vulnerability that showed yo, bro, I'm fucked up. I'm in jail. I need you, fam. Please be everything you said you was going to be, right? And in my mind, I'm yo, I know what it's like to get let down. I'm not letting you down, bro. I'm here for you. I'm going to be here for you forever. And, I kind of really stuck to those principles, right? As best as I could, right? Even now for his son or to his family or whatever the case, whatever they would have needed of me, it would have been no problem.
I love that. Built on trust.
Yeah.
On that note, because I think as a manager and an artist, or an A&R, an artist, or an agent and an artist, trust is so important. How did you two form a relationship built on trust during a period of X's life where I'm sure he didn't have much faith in others?
Well, it took a lot, right? And it took a lot of time, and we would talk on the phone every day. And I really we both had to prove it to each other, right? In a way, he had to prove to me that he was really serious about being an artist and being this person that was gonna have this crazy impact, right? Because that was where he was really focused on, this having this crazy generational level impact. So for me, I really had to prove to him that I was going to be there for him, right? That I wasn't, just trying to get some clout or whatever, right? That I was going to be there for him for where it counted. If things went left, if he would ended up going back to jail or whatever the case may be, right? He wanted to know that, you know, he had abandonment issues, right? You know, stemming from his mom and whatever the case may be. So I think it was really important to him to know that he had a team that was going to really, really, really be there for him no matter what. And, you know, over time, I was able to show him, like, yo, bro, I'm not going nowhere, right? We could fight, we could argue, but I got your best interests at heart, right? Like, your best interests are my best.
You guys would fight and argue over what was best and how to do things, and I think every good relationship is like that.
It has to be that way, right? Because if it's not, then it's just like you're really just getting yes men, right? And it wasn't my job to be that. Right? He had a bunch of other people around him that could be that, right? But I just wanted to make sure that, like, when the dust settled or when I looked back at everything, I could be proud of it, at least my part of it, right? So I always had to be truthful.
You mentioned like polarizing, which I think is one of the things that drew so many people to X and myself, and just how he navigated and did things. Like, how was it moving with that crew? Like, so what was your day-to-day like?
It was always crazy. It was always like, oh my God, I hope we don't get arrested. Oh my God, I hope somebody else doesn't get arrested, and I hope there's not a big crazy fight, right? Because like even on tour, right, when we did the Revenge tour, it was fucking pandemonium all day long, right? From, you know, you wake up in the morning, you go to the mall, you get chased out of the mall, you know, you go to the shows, kids are crying, you know, kids are fucking damn near, they're getting their bones broke inside the mosh pit, right? You know, they're getting carried out by ambulances, they're holding up their broken arms, broken legs, broken collarbones, whatever it is, like it's some type of relic, right? With honor, right? Like I remember one time I seen a kid, the ambulance carrying him out on a stretcher, and he was screaming. I was like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Are you gonna sue us?" He said, "Fuck no, it's the Revenge tour." And I was just like, "Oh shit." Right, and it was like on that road, I was really realizing the impact of these kids that they were having. Right, the kid didn't give a fuck that his arm was broke. He was proud that his arm got broken in fucking Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix goes crazy though.
Right, I didn't know this at the time, right?
Neither did I. Sempre did a show there the other night, and it was one of the craziest of the tour. I had no idea. I thought, I ain't going to Phoenix. I don't need to go there.
Those kids turned up, right? Those kids turned the fuck up. So, you know, shit like that just... It was never a dull moment, right? We were always getting in trouble. There was always some bullshit. There was always a lawsuit rolling around the corner for something somebody did. But no, it was really an exciting time, man. And I get to look back on it and just smile.
The friendship as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know what? Why it was? Because even though we would argue and fight and we would all go through so much, we had a lot of fucking fun together.
Yeah.
Right? We had a lot of fucking fun together, right? There was a lot of laughs. You know, anybody that, you know, luckily got the chance to know Jase would know he was a big jokester, right? So he was always playing around and just having a good time. And, you know, he just wanted to take care of his friends and just live his dreams, man. The kid went through so much by the time I met him, right? You know, there was the buildup of mental health from it going unaddressed to, you know, him being incarcerated, which doesn't help that a lot. Right?
No.
But, you know, it gave him the space to where he got to create amazing bodies of work like 17, right? So he was even though he was a kind of a tortured soul in a bit, it was beautiful because it was like he was kind of getting this he was getting to express himself in this way that was so true to him, and it was like a release. Like, yo, when he was on stage or when he was performing, you could literally see like there's not a care, right? Like he would literally leave it all on this, like, you know, there's this, I think it's like the flu game, right? Where like Jordan and Pippen are like walking off the stage together. It used to feel like that every night, right? After he would like walk off the stage and I would like grab him and, you know, his body would kind of feel weak. And I'm like, oh shit, you really just gave it your all. And every night he would be crazy. It was really amazing to watch.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
And I think you've mentioned it a few times, like his story and his music touched deeply on mental health. How has that friendship and journey informed how you support the artists you work with emotionally now?
Well, starting out with him, he was the first real life close up example that I ever had dealing with like mental health. And at that time, I was young, but I wasn't that young, but I didn't know nothing about it, right? I really didn't know, right? At that time,
How
like
old
a
were
lot
you?
of other people, I was what, 27,
Yeah.
35 now. So it's like, at that time, I probably wrote people off as being crazy, like everybody did before you have an understanding of it, right? But because when I would first meet X, and I know he was going through a lot, and he would tell me sometimes like I'm not happy, and I would look at him like, yo, bro, how you not happy? You got the #1 record in the world, your shit is going great, your career is going great, we're working out all the court stuff. When he would just tell me like, yo, I'm just facing a lot of shit, I'm just going through a lot of shit, and it made me really understand that like it's not all that you see, right? There's a lot of layers that us as people go through, right? That, the outside doesn't get to see. So now when I'm dealing with an artist, like I care about what you're going through. I care if there's a mental health problem. I am going to get you help. I am going to do the things that I feel like, not that I didn't get a chance to, because, or we were able to get X, like, psychiatrists and people to talk to and all that other stuff. I just, wish I would have been there a few years before, right? To really get him some help that he really needed. But
You guys were young.
we were young, and we didn't really know better. Not that that's an excuse. I think everybody should figure out the best way for it is to help whoever that's in their circle that may be dealing with some type of mental health issues. But I just think it's a thing that I'm really proud of that he flashed the light on, right? Because it's
100%.
something that, especially in our communities, would have went unchecked for a lot longer, right? If he didn't really flash a global flashlight on that, like, yo,
It was taboo for a while.
yeah,
People didn't want to talk about it.
facts.
And then you have someone of influence who everyone looks to for strength and for leadership. They start talking about the shit you're going through.
Yeah. So it's, in a way, it's beautiful, right? Because even though he had to harbor so much pain, he's helping so many other people release theirs, right? So that in itself is just like a wonderful thing. Like, it's bittersweet not having him here no more, right? Like, I remember there's times where I've seen, my son and his daughter play, and it's just like, wow, like part of me gets very angry that he's not here to see this, right? But then I'll go home and I'll put my kids to sleep and I'll search through my Instagram and, I'll see a young person, 14, 15, 16, talking about, yo, I was going to kill myself, but X's music saved my life, right? And I will get those messages for a long time, but it wasn't till I lost him and I started having my own children that I realized how precious life was, right? Till I started realizing how much of a blessing it was for me to get those messages from strangers, right? That we really did something, right? Because I think about, my 2 kids now that I love more than anything in the world. Like, I wouldn't know what to do if I would have lost one of my kids to anything, especially not, the perils of their own mind, right? So, I'm forever grateful for, what he did and what we did together.
Thank you for sharing that, bro. What are some of your favorite memories?
So my favorite memory ever was him first getting out of jail. We did this documentary with Hulu, and thank goodness they caught that on tape, right? It was like, I think it was like moments of him just being released, and my taxi pulls up, and we've spent so much time, months and months at this point, on the phone with each other all day long, right? From 9 a.m. to when he gets his jet phone privileges. We take the break at 2, from 12 to 2, and then from 2 to 9 when the phone is off, right? We were on the phone every single day. So to be able to hug him and to feel his presence and to be in that moment with him was so special to me, right? Because it's like, oh my fucking God, we did it, right? And I didn't know we was going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But we tried our hardest and we fucking did it. And you're free, right? And you're right here, right? You got a little ankle monitor, but who cares, right? Like, ankle jewelry is cool.
I love that, bro. How did you first connect with your business partner, Veli?
So I first connected with Veli through one of my partners, Birdman Zoe, right? Birdman, I think I seen him tweet at the time, if you ever need help with anything, Veli really got shit on lock, right? Veli knows Philly mad well. At the time, I was looking for somebody to help, right?
Was he promoting at that time?
He was a promoter, right?
Yeah.
So he was doing shows, and he wanted to do more, and I knew that, like, yo, I want to build out this company, and I just need help, right? And I need like a special type of help, right? I need cheap, reliable, trustworthy help, right? Like good people, right? And it's hard to get all those things. And what was I paying him when it first started? With $30,000 salary, $35,000 salary. So it's basically he's working for free, basically, right? So, Bird introduced us. We talked, we connected, and I'm just like, yeah, I really fuck with this guy, right? And he really had a really good understanding of touring, right? And I didn't, right? Because before that, right, X was really the only artist that I ever really went on a meaningful tour with before that. So I wanted to use his expertise, with shows and promoting to kind of fill some of my shortfalls, kind of. So I thought, well, okay, well, great, we'll be a good team. And then, I just got him, right? I liked him. He was honest, and he wasn't like flashy at all. He just wanted to do the work and go home, right? That's it. And I really
have a
like
Jameson,
that, right? That's it. Have a little Jameson, right? But I really like that, right? Because as I was, right, like, not that I was too crazy, but I wanted to have fun, right? It was like I worked my whole life to get to this point, so I wanted to enjoy it. He was more so like, nah, man, whatever. So we had a really good balance to each other, and I just really liked that. So even like watching him and Coach Cheese now is beautiful, right? Because it's like I remember, when I first found Coach Cheese, guys working at the YMCA making like $200 like every other week or something like that, right? And he has a few songs and it's starting to move, and we literally just spent so much time with this guy in person, on the phone. It's really build it up. Our sons were born days apart from each other, and I'm just like looking at him now, in a multi-million-dollar house, and his family's good and well taken care of. And I'm like, this is fucking it. This is why I do this, right? Like for that level of satisfaction. Like, so after a certain level, right, you'll have every car, you'll have every watch. Those things start to like mean less and less to you. But watching like the success of like others, friends and your family, right? Watching them being able to change the trajectory of their last name, to be able to help out their own families, to be a blessing in their own communities. That's what really started to do it for me, right? And even to this day, it's really my main motivation, right? That and my kids.
Amazing, bro. I had that discovery myself in the last couple of years of like some of my guys buying their first houses and being like, okay, great. We know that we've made incredible music for a period of time and that'll extend further, but the generational wealth that will be able to continue for them and their families, no matter what they do musically, it's
amazing.
I think is the tightest thing. So in addition to artist management, you're also an A&R and founder of Sounds Music Group. Now, what do you think, like, there's going to be a lot of kids watching this out there that are going to have got the DM slide from A&Rs, they're going to have the emails from A&Rs, or they're going, I want to impress this A&R, I've heard of this person, they're amazing. To you, what do you think are the most important attributes that A&R should have?
Man, number one, the willingness to learn, all right? Because it's like, even if you're a specialist in a specific genre, this business is changing so much, right? So for example, like if you were an A&R in the pandemic and you were just, focused on signing all the stuff on TikTok, your job's done now, right? You don't got a job no more if that's all you could do, right? So you need to be able to have the willingness to learn and the ability to adapt, right? Because now it's more so about, if we look and see what's the things that are really doing well now, the things that are really doing well now are the things that have been developed, right? That have taken it. You look at the Doechis, whatever else is doing really well in the marketplace outside of the major superstars, and even them, they've had time to develop. If you look at the Cardis or the Kendricks or the Drakes or whatever, all those artists have had time to develop. So I think it's gone is the day of the viral hit that just comes out of nowhere, right? So it's getting back to, I don't want to say kind of like a purist, but it's getting back to where people are really caring about like really developed things. I think, the palette has gotten kind of bored of the fast food music kind of, right? And
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a wave, right? But it's just like, I think people are kind of getting driven to more so artistry, right? And there's just so much stuff out there, right? With 200, 300, 400,000 things that get released every single day. It's kind of hard to care, right? It's just like, unless somebody's really, taking the oxygen out the room with something really special, it's like so easy to pass it by, right? So for me, that's always been my main thing with artists is like, can you be polarizing, right? There's only going to be more and more and more shit to be coming out every single day, right? The amount of playlists that are available or whatever things, there's, 10 million artists fighting for 50 slots at any given time. So it's like, how are you really going to make people care, right? And I think one of the best examples that I ever got was working with X, because the only thing that mattered was his audience, right? And that's the best advice I can give to any upcoming artist. The only thing that matters is your audience and your relationship with them. Because somehow, some way, if you're able to fart on a track, like I'm talking flatulence, right? And somehow, some way, that flatulence is getting 100, 200,000 streams a day. Every A&R in the business is going to pull up on you and tell you got the most sweetest sounding asshole ever. It's the truth.
It is.
Shit, I might even pull up to you and tell you that. But that's the reality, right? So the most important thing you can do is to cater to your audience and build your audience and make that audience go and be a champion for you and make them get their friends and their family and everybody else to support you. And the way you really do that is you give yourself to them, right? In the way that X did, right? The connecting with them. I remember being on stage and he's screaming his phone number out on the mic, right? Like his actual phone number.
His actual phone number?
Yeah, and I'm watching after the show, that phone vibrates so hard, it's like about to start smoking and exploding, right? It's like everybody's calling at the phone, don't even know what to do. But
you have to get brand new phone.
Yeah, seriously. Literally, I had to go get a new phone the next day. But that's what it was about, right? And, he would still answer that phone as much as possible, answer those DMs as much as possible. It's all about the experience you have with your fans, right? That's all it's about. Because if they love you, even if it's small, right? Like I always tell artists, you're better off being independent and having 5,000 to 10,000 fans that really love you and are really support you than being signed to a major label and don't nobody know who you are, right? So it's like, it's just about that experience you can make. If you can, like, J. Cole's a great example of that, right? He's made this experience with his fans throughout the year. They've grown older with him. They're able to spend more money as he tours or whatever the case may be, but they're with him, right? And they love him and their kids and the next generation is coming up under him. They're all seeing it for what it is, right? Somebody that really cares about their craft and really cares about the audience that's attached to it. So I think that's the best thing that you can do. And it kind of, in a way, it makes it so it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, right? If you're able to really build a great audience and then cater to that audience, it doesn't matter what, anything could be going on, anything could be popping. You'll always have an opportunity to do what you want to do because you have the built-in audience.
Who was the first artist you ever A&R'd and what were your biggest learnings from it?
So the first artist I ever A&R'd was probably the artist that I guess like got me excited about being in music. In the first place, this kid named Anthony Flamia, who I'm still very, very close with to this day, right? We were in college and he was just an amazingly talented singer and, songwriter and instrumentalist. He could just do all these things. And I was like, yo, bro, there's no way you can go be an accountant, right? Like, you got to figure out this music shit. So we ended up like making a project for him called Ups and Downs. And, I did my best to figure out how to market and promote the project. We ended up going on tour, and just like I really got like I had to figure everything out, right, with no explanation. So that was my first real go around. You know, A&Ring started to get a little bit easier as I started to have more resources. Like for example, like a Stay Solid Rocky, right? Like, Party Girl, a song was 5-6 times platinum, right? But like I remember first hearing the song, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like a hit record that I'll like hear at one of them shops while I'm shopping, right? And I was like, okay, I just reached out to him. I was like, yo, let's build this up, let's figure this out. And ultimately, a lot of times with these artists, they might have a different vision of themselves, and I think that's what it was with Stay Solid Rocky, right? Like he had a understanding that pop music meant something different from popular, right? So I think that kind of derailed him a little bit. But for me, A&Ring was really just, it was a combination of thinking about what does everybody like and what do I like, right? Because I don't necessarily think that I like to think I have a high taste level, but like I like what everybody else likes, right? Like, so if I like something, chances are somebody else might like something. So that's really what it is, right? It gets a little bit difficult as you get older, right? Because I think this is a young man game, right? So for me, part of what I would do, like I remember around the time that I jumped on and started working with Capital, I used to take like my Ferrari out and just drive through like the Bronx and Brooklyn, go to parks and get like fistfuls of cash, like a lot of money, but like fives and ones and tens, and pull up on kids and be like, yo, hey, you want to sit in my car and take pictures? Oh, all right, yo, what y'all listening to? What y'all like? Here's some cash.
Crazy.
It was like, yo, K Flock. And I'm like, who the hell is K Flock? And it's like, you don't know K Flock. You don't know K Flock. Like, don't run, don't trip. And I was just like, okay, all right, let me check him out. Then I ended up going to check out K Flock. And then, I'm talking to Jeff the next day, and I'm like, what do you think about K Flock? He goes, oh man, we love K Flock. We've been trying to sign him. Da 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 da. He's not answering us. Da, 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 da.
Lead with me.
I'm like, yeah, I think I can handle this. And we ended up signing him, right? So, that was a really interesting project to A&R as well, because as talented as he was, he used to always say, yo, I'm not a rapper. He wasn't really a rapper. He was just shooting like a rap, really. But so it's just like, we helped him, and we helped him do a lot. Like I remember at the time, like even Cardi B, we helped Cardi B get on that record, and it's made a real special moment for New York City. Shout out to Cardi B. She was amazing when it came to that, and just sweetest person, didn't ask for a dime, just wanted to support kids from her neighborhood, right?
Wow.
So love her for that. But yeah, man, A&R is really fun. And
how do you bring out the best in people?
So first, you got to believe in it, number one, right? Because I think without having a real belief in them, it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be hard just to, get through all the sessions or getting through all the fights or whatever it is. So rule number one, I think there's a certain level of belief in them. Outside of that, like I like to assemble the Justice League a lot, right?
Okay.
Like, and what I mean by that, for example, like when I first signed Ice Spice and we set up the first Ice Spice sessions, right? We called, all the best producers we could, that were local, that we all had a good relationship with, all the best writers we could, the Derek Bolano, everybody who we could, and we got those guys in the room and they all got cracking very fast, right? And it's always like that, right? Even, for the new stuff that we're working on now. So me and a few of my friends got together and started this new company called Courtesy Of. So me, Birdman Zoe, who manages Internet Money, Saint Haraway, who was EVP.
He was at Republic.
Yep, for a while.
Shout out Saint.
Yep, and my guy Ryan Rudin, who was at Capital and Columbia for a long time, head of experimental marketing. He's with us as well. So we started this new company called Courtesy Of, just because we were just friends. We would hang out all day, and we just always figure like, yo, let's just do something together. So in this thing, signing a bunch of great new artists, but like from scratch, right? Like this is all out of our own pocket, and we were just picking things that we thought were interesting and just developing them right before our eyes. So we got this girl Nolly who's really exciting. Our R&B princess, and she's killing it. A really special girl. Actually Jimmy Cozier's daughter. And Stunna Sandy. Stunna Sandy's been really exciting.
Cool.
Because like I found her a while ago, and just something about her was just so New York and just really cool, and she just has this great pen, and she was just like from the very beginning to now like a hidden gem, right? That we've been just like gently just like brushing, right? And just getting her right, and just polishing her up and just getting her super ready for the mainstream. But streaming really well now.
Great.
TikTok is going crazy, monthly listeners is up, all of this off of just us just putting her in the studio and just giving her a shot. She's getting booked all over the city,
building the Justice League around her.
Exactly, right? So just getting those components around, like, who's the best marketing person, right? Who understands the DSPs, right? Who gets the playlist, right? Who gets this, who gets that? The best people that are really excited about how to do their job properly is just who we call and who we get just to get behind these artists.
I love that. And A&R means different things to different people.
Sure.
But for you specifically, Monday to Sunday, like what is...
So A&R has a few different things, right? So the beginning of A&R is discovering. First, you got to discover some shit, right? Then after you discover it, then you got to fight the fight to sign it. Then after you fight the fight to sign it, if you win that, now you got to break it.
You got to fight the fight to break it.
Exactly. You fight the fight to break it. Then after that, that's like the stage where most A&Rs don't get to, is the celebrate part, right? It's like you celebrate, then you go do it again. But I think those are the 4 stages of A&R. It's like you discover, you sign, you break, you celebrate.
Do you celebrate your wins enough?
So I'm trying to now because, through X and, K-Flock and a lot of people, I just realized life is real short, right? So it's like, I remember I used to get on X like, yo, you spending too much money, he's private jets, this, that. And now I'm happy he did all of that, right? Because his time here was so short, right? In the same space. I'm not saying don't be, financially irresponsible, but I think there's a certain way, that you got to basically, this shit is not easy, right? To get up here, whether you're an artist, manager, A&R, agent, whatever it is, lawyer, this is a hard business to be in. And, it's not easy to keep going, so it's okay to pat yourself on the back or do whatever it is to make yourself feel good. And I'm a firm believer of that, especially now, right? Because when it's all said and done, when I'm up there watching my highlight tape, I want it to be exciting, right? I want it to be exciting. Like I want everybody to go, oh shit, you see this?
Everyone come look.
Yeah,
look,
facts.
We do this.
So I want it to be like that. So I'm celebrating, man, as much as I can.
Nice. When you start working with a new artist, what does your process look like for mapping out their career? Like, are you a big 5-year arc guy, or are you more instinctual? Like, how do you move?
So I think it's really a lot of conversations in the beginning, right? Because it's like I got to basically download your whole life really quickly, right? And then your wants, and then your hopes, and your dreams, and your aspirations, and really just have a really deep understanding of why you're doing what you're doing and what you're looking to get out of it, right? Because I feel like that is at least the beginning of understanding how am I gonna get this person from A to Z, right? How am I gonna make them happy? How am I gonna make them feel like I'm doing a good job and their goals are getting accomplished in a reasonable amount of time, right? So it's about all of that.
How do you go when you bring on an artist and they might not have all that mapped out? They've got the talent, they've got the star power, they
usually never do. Nobody usually is ever a complete package, right? There's unicorns, of course, but these days I think that's few and far in between.
Yeah.
I think you know, you're gonna get a bunch of ingredients and you got to figure out your recipe, right? Like that's what it is to me, right? Like you know, certain artists will have amazing music but will not understand social media, or certain artists will have amazing, you know, social media presence but the music isn't that great. Or so it's just really just kind of like leveling out the strengths and weaknesses, right? Figuring out like, yo, this is good for this artist, or you know, this could be good for that artist. And you know, it's all has to be custom, right? It's not a one size fit all type of thing, right? So it's just a custom job for everybody.
Did you have any particular mentors when you were figuring all this out?
So initially, no. Along the way, yeah, right. There was a guy, Tim Blacksmith, right, who, you know, in so many ways, like helped me so much, right? In terms of just, you know, smart moves to make inside the business. And mind you, a little bit about Tim Blacksmith. He's a publisher. He's a publisher. He had this incredible company called Stellar Music Publishing, right? He managed Stargate
Oh,
really
crazy.
long time. You know, built a bunch of hits for Rihanna, Beyonce, literally everybody. And he just had an amazing taste level, right? Like I was always really into art. You know, he kind of gave me the push off the arc to really jump into art. He really helped me when it came down to, you know, buying properties and being smart with money and making smart financial decisions. You know, even when it came down to like family problems, when, you know, me and the mother of my child split up and, you know, I had to fight for custody and all those other things, he was a tremendous asset and
Wow.
just like friend in like really, really, really tough times for me, right? So Tim, if you're listening, I love you. Thank you for everything, right?
How'd you meet?
So we met because he was trying to sign this kid Anthony Flamia that I was working
Yeah.
with. He heard the music, really liked the music, didn't care that there wasn't much socially around it. He was just kind of like a purist, like he just wanted to give great artists a chance, right? And we would just hang out, and he would just school me on everything from Yamazaki to Retina to the reason why he thinks Porsches are better than Ferraris or whatever the case may be, right? But we had a wealth of just amazing conversations and just learning, and right, and it's just like it's beautiful when you see somebody who's so successful, right, but who really wants nothing more than to share the secrets of that success with the next generation. Was always really inspiring to me, right? Like he had this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful mansion in Venice, and it would be like an open door policy to all these amazing artists where you could just
Wow.
come in and just drink good Japanese whiskey and listen to fucking hits that are about that are not out yet, but they're about to be fucking legendary hits, and you get to talk shit and just really just vibe and
Wow.
get the camaraderie of real friends and a real support system. So especially as a black executive, I don't think there's enough of that, right? So Tim, shout out to him for being a great, great, great mentor. And then also one of my partners now, in courtesy of, this guy Birdman Zoe. I've known Bird for a long time, since I was building that studio at my mom's house in Elmont, right? He was,
Ripping the walls out
Yep,
with you.
facts. He was managing, some artists that would come and use the studio from time to time. So we always knew of each other, and, we'd just always be in a loop with each other. And, after a while, we became really good friends. And he just always had the knack of giving me these fucking Phil Jackson level speeches, right? When I was down, that would just always just kind of just get me just back up, back shaking. Like he'd walk into my house and be like, yo, bro, look around, bro. Your life is fucking great, bro. You see what, get the fuck up, bro. Come on, come on. And he's still like that to this day, right? So it's just like, it's the guys like that that can kind of see the good in you when you can't see it, right? And I really, really, really appreciate him for that. So, but I've been lucky. I've been blessed to come across a lot of great people, and I've tried to be a good person to a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to keep the good karma rolling.
How do you get through those moments when you're just like trying to get up off the floor? It's great that you had Birdman Zoe to come and do that, but like, how do How do you every day turn up and be the best that you can be?
So I've had two really good examples of this, right? The first example was losing X, right? Because it was like, oh my God, you go from being at the height of your career to literally being depressed, right? Being in despair to where like you feel like even though you now have all the money in the world, you have all this other stuff, but you have money before, so none of that stuff really matters, right? But it's the fact that like, oh my God, like this shit just stopped in its tracks, right? This kid is not here no more. All the stuff that mattered yesterday doesn't matter today, right? And then the second time I felt like that is when I was going through my child custody battle, right? I went a really long time without seeing my kids, right? Maybe like 4 or 5 months. And ironically, I named my son after Jase, right? But, America's a hard place when it comes to like child custody or whatever. So like, I went like it was like getting robbed of Jase twice, right? So it was rough, right? And you're a new dad, so you can imagine how it goes, right? So in that time where, I wasn't able to see my kids, it made me feel a lot like the time where right after Jase died, where it was like, I wasn't really going outside. I wasn't partying. I wasn't really talking to nobody. I really felt like I couldn't trust anybody. I really couldn't get my emotions out. And what I did was I went to therapy. I went to therapy. I found somebody to listen to.
What year did you start therapy?
So I started therapy in 2024, really. Yeah, seriously, right?
Same.
Yeah, 2024, right? I just felt like, in a way, I kind of felt helpless, right? Because it was like, yo, I had everything that I ever wanted materialistically, but now the most important thing in my life I just didn't have, right? I didn't even know who my kids were, right? It was just like a really nasty, bitter kind of like custody thing, right? So I literally just needed to just get somebody to talk to really help me figure out how to deal with my emotions. And, I really encourage everybody who's going through anything, or even if you're not going through anything, just to find somebody to talk to, right? Because sometimes it's not as easy to just talk to your homeboys and they just don't get it the same way. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. So for me, I'm just like, I'm in a space to where like, yeah, I'm happy, I'm good, but I know that like this business can take a real toll on you, right? And in order to do what you need to do in this business, you really need to have your personal life in order, right? Because like it's hard. Like you can't have two things failing at the same time, right? So it's just like you really gotta get your personal, especially when you want to manage and do stuff like that. It's like you got to figure out how to manage your own personal life and then go manage other people, right? So I really
can't pour from an empty cup.
Thanks. So but getting that help, getting that therapy, and then also reminding yourself that this is life. We all have our shortfalls. We're all going to go through some things, and these things are only just designed to make us stronger and to teach us about our mistakes and coming to those conclusions. And it helps a lot.
I wanted to ask you a question about the estate. So how have you managed to ensure that X's legacy is protected through the estate, and it's in an industry that often can jump on posthumous releases and things are done a certain way? I've always watched how you've navigated that so well. That must be hard, man.
So I basically, from the moment he died to probably about, I want to say maybe like February, March maybe, of last year, I ran the estate. I'm no longer involved with the estate. Me and his mom had like some personal issues where, we basically took a stop, working with each other. But for me, the easiest thing to do, there's a twofold thing, right? Number one, what was Jase's expressed wishes, right? That was always the number one fueling thing, right? What was the issue? What were his wishes that were expressed to the people that were here? Number two, what do the fans want?
Yeah.
Simple as that, right? What do the fans want, right? So, maybe, around the first posthumous release, me and his mom didn't really see eye to eye much because I think there was a lot of creative liberties that were taken that the fans didn't necessarily agree with. They couldn't really like
get behind
understand, like, oh, who is this person, right? Like, Tom G, like I think like good rapper or whatever the case may be. But like at the time, you know, his mom, who wasn't trying to do anything bad, was just trying to use her son's platform to give another artist a chance, you know, which isn't anything, you know, bad at all. But in the same space, it's like, oh, you know, I don't think that she was sensitive about how his audience was gonna feel, right? So there was those type of like growing pains, but for the most part, right, his brand was so clear and so decisive that we kind of knew what to do. And then, you know, for the fact that like, you know, we loved him, we spoke to him every single day, right? Even though there would be arguments, fights, or whatever shit here some days, right? We knew what the vision was, right? We knew what he was building after, what he was going for, what he was hoping for. So yeah, it just made things a lot different.
What was the most important lesson that X taught you?
I think one of the most important things I personally take away, right, is I remember one time we were hanging out, I think we was in LA or something like that, and he grabs my phone and he saves a calendar, like a reminder in my reminders, and the reminder was like, yo, do what you gotta do so good that people basically pay you more for it. It was something along those lines.
Yeah.
Let me actually look at it. See, I still got the reminder to this day. It was work harder every day so nobody has to ask you.
What does that mean to you?
It was a simple thing to where it was just like, yo, like, if you go be the best that you could be every single day, nobody can complain about you, right? Like, nobody has to tell Kobe Bryant, like, while he was here to wake up and go shoot some free throws, right? Nobody had to tell that to LeBron James or to anybody who was that focused on basketball on that same level, right? And he would basically tell me that about his own artistry, right? His own, when it comes to making music or doing whatever it is, like, let me go be the best I could be at all times. And that's just really how I took it. And, you know, I kept it as my 6 a.m. reminder every single day. So I see it every single day, and it's just another way to remember my brother.
What does success look like for SMG in 5 years? Like, are you building a boutique powerhouse, a cultural empire, something in between? Like, what does this business mean to you?
So these days, right, I think Sounds Music Group is going to be more so reserved for just things I'm really passionate about, right? So even though this might not look like success to other people, but for me, success for Sounds Music Group is just saving young lives, right? It's just saving young lives, finding young artists that, you know, maybe are troubled or going through some shit and giving them the opportunity to basically change the trajectory of their last name with their music. Like, that's success to me, right? Now, there's other companies that I'm building, you know, whether it be courtesy of or whatever, that, you know, we want to do that too. We want to help change other Black lives, but there's other successful things that we want to do, right? We want to have #1 records. We want to break the next things. We want to, you know, be really competitive and impactful in this space, right? But I think for Sounds Music Group in that space, right, that's just about what I deem is really personal and really special, and right, those things like, for example, Tenny, right? Tenny, who I love, who I think is probably going to be one of the most important artists I ever worked with in my life. Like, she's the type of artist that I mean, right? Like, I had no intentions on working with Tenny. It's like she found me, and the level of urgency that I felt when I heard the music was enough of it to be the driving force to get me to do everything I needed to do, right? Because it's like, yo, this is important, right? This is music that needs to be heard, right? This is music that the masses need, that the world needs, like, in order for the world to be a better place. Without trying to sound corny or nothing like that, but it really is true, right? Like, she has a song called Money, and, you know, when I first heard the song, right, I was going through so much. I didn't have my kids, real emotional time for me, right? And the lyrics to the hook was, they say, money can't buy you happiness. Money can't buy you love. Money won't fill this emptiness, but I want all the money in the world, right? And
I think that was an IG caption you had
absolutely
recently.
Right? And it was just like, oh, that was, at the time, it just felt like the most powerful thing I ever heard, right? Because it was just like, you know, with millions of dollars in the bank, I didn't see my kids for months, right? So it wasn't like this money could help me with the thing that was hurting me the most, but I was still so focused and so concerned with kind of just getting back and building up that it was like, but fuck that. I still want every single dollar in the world, right? And I think everybody can relate to that, right? And I love music like that, right? That's so on par with the human experience, no matter who you are, no matter where your culture is from. You can listen to it and you can identify it with one way or another, right? So she is, she is that level of artist for me, and I'm super excited about, just continuing to work with her and just what her future looks like, right? I'm super excited. She has a bunch of great songs. About to put out a big remix for Money. She has this amazing second single named Speed with Gunna.
Crazy.
More amazing records with Davido and Olamide, and just she's just like gonna be a global phenomenon, and I'm just very, very, very proud to be in her corner. Real shit.
What advice would you give to the younger version of yourself in your early days of pursuing a career in music? If young Solomon was sitting right here, what would you say?
First and foremost, I would be like, yo, do your best not to figure out why you started. Number two, try to enjoy yourself on the journey. And then number three, try to have some patience, right? Because it's like, no matter how good you think you are, or no matter how good you think your product is, this shit is not up to you, right? Like, you do not determine when this shit goes, right? You don't, right? You do not determine when this shit goes. So, try to enjoy yourself, but...
Is that what The Alchemist was about?
In a way, right? The Alchemist was about this kid who, he was a sheep herder, but he wanted to learn how to be an alchemist so he can turn, whatever, into gold, live this life. And he ends up, trying to, he goes off on these crazy adventures to try to learn more about being an alchemist. He falls in love with this girl, but he realizes the girl's not for him, because if the girl was for him, then she would support him in every single way for him to get to his definite chief aim, right? So he learned so much about life and, all of these things on the way to trying to become the alchemist, that he realized that the specialness is in the journey, not in the end of it. It's not that, oh yeah, I'm going to be happy now because I'm the alchemist. No, I'm happy now because I've had all these experiences alongside the journey to becoming what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
I love that. How's becoming a dad change your perspective on your career and the legacy you want to leave behind?
Everything, to be honest, right? Like, it makes me think about every single thing, right? It makes me think about the artists that I signed, the legacy, the impact of their music. Like, I signed some drill things I'm not proud of, because I've seen what these things kind of do to their communities, right? Like, K-Flock just got sentenced, all this other stuff, right? So I'm thinking about, yo, what's this world that I'm leaving to my own children, right? Like, I want it to be more positive, right? I'm leaning towards, working with more positive things, because, this world is for them, right? I'm 35, I'm halfway out of here, right? It's just like, then it's about my kids, it's about the next level, and it's about their kids, and it's about making sure that they're always gonna have something to help them, right? Like, the same way like music helped save me, I wanted to help save them if they ever need it, right? So we kind of got to keep our shit pure, keep it together, so it's here, right? We can't really like let it get abused too much, and come and not take advantage of these opportunities that are in front of us, because after that, it's just like, it's over,
So music saved you?
100%. I don't know what I would do if it wasn't for this, right? Because it not only helped save me, it helped save my family, my mom, my brothers, my own children, and a bunch of other families. Right? And I just don't. The fans, they're like, just it's a cycle that never ends, right? But it's full of hope, and it's beautiful, And I would never have it no other way. I don't think anything could bring me the level of joy that music has brought me. And not just like the money, right? The money is like, it's not last on the list, but it's pretty low, right? Like after you get enough of it, that's no longer going to be a domineering motivation. But what really is, man, is really just seeing happiness in other people, right? Seeing other people being able to live their dreams. I remember what I Hate It Here feels like, right? And knowing that those days is over is a beautiful thing, right? And I want to keep being able to spread that. I want to keep spreading opportunity and hope for people that look like me and people that don't look like me, and just whatever it is, man. But I just want to make sure this business can continue to just save lives and just, you know, make a safe haven for young geniuses that know they just don't fit into the puzzle of regular 9-to-5 world or whatever that might be.
Last question. What is the achievement you're most proud of in your career so far, and why? And this can be hard because I know you work with so many talented people that you believe in, but if I was purely asking for your most proud of achievement, what would that look like?
I have to say the thing I'm most proud of is my 2 children. Right after that, strictly focused on career-wise, what I'm most proud of, I would say probably outside of the opportunity to get up and keep doing this, right? The opportunity to keep having swings. Because what I always tell artists is like, yo, you got one chance to really do this. Me, I'm lucky. I got a bunch of chances to keep doing it. So I'm very grateful for that. But in a more so, I guess, like not materialistic thing, but an achievement thing, I would want to say X's Diamond songs, right? There's like 3 or 4 of them, but like I'm really grateful for those because in a way, like I know everybody says a Grammy is the highest honor in music, but that's not really true, right? Because you could buy a Grammy, right? And I've seen them be bought, right? No disrespect to who I was watching, but a diamond record, right? That goes to show, yo, 10 million plus people supported you domestically right here in your own country, right? I don't think it gets any more, like it gets no bigger than that, right? And there's only 70, 80 songs in history. It's less than 100 songs last time I checked, right? That have gotten that accomplishment, right? So to know that the likes of Bob Marley, Sade, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Fela Kuti, I'm just naming all my favorite artists ever, right? And this young kid from Broward County has made a few songs that will live forever. Amongst those songs is iconic. It's iconic. I'm so proud of his legacy. I named my son after him so we can continue it and just to show honor. So, yeah, those are those.
Amazing, bro. Well, I think it's evident to many people, and including myself, that you've built artists from the ground up. You've preserved artists' impacts after they're gone, and you're a rare kind of human. And I think, you know, many people have seen your successes online, but I hope through this conversation that they can see that there's a lot of heart. And I just want to thank you for sharing so much here, and for taking the time to spend it, man, and empowering the next generation of artists and A&Rs and managers.
Oh, but man, it's an obligation that I do not take lightly. So I appreciate it, man, and I encourage y'all to, you know, keep watching the cheat code and keep making your own cheat codes.
Appreciate you, bro.
No problem, man. Thank you.